Whenever I tell people that me and my boyfriend had successfully done a 3 years long distance relationship, Vietnam-Germany, I would receive questions like, oh my gosh, how did you even do that? What is your secret? How did that work out? So I thought today I would sit down and tell you our long distance story. For the recap, in case you're new here, my name is Uyen. 7 years ago, I was a student in Hanoi, Vietnam. I met a German guy who was doing backpacking around Southeast Asia. And now I live in Germany with him and he's my fiance. I made a video exactly about how we met. Here, you can check it out here. Or the link in the description. After 4 months, we became a couple. But at that time, he was already back to Germany and starting his first big job. And I was still a third-year student studying in Vietnam. So we're doing long distance. So that's the background story. Let's jump to the questions. I post a story on my Instagram asking people to just put any question they have into the box and I will answer it. And here are some of the most requested questions. By the way, in today's video, German boyfriend will also join at some point to answer some questions. So please give him a warm welcome. So the first question that I received a lot is that when we decided to start the long distance, what was I thinking? Did I have a lot of hope for it or did I have a lot of doubts? Guys, I was 21 at that time. I was young, I was naive, I was full of hope. I had never had my heart broken. Even now, I have never had my heart broken, which is so good. But yeah, at that time, my mindset was like, if I find a boyfriend, he's gonna be my Prince Charming. We're gonna be happily ever after like a Disney movie. There's no doubt about it. Therefore, when we started the long distance, I was very sure that it's gonna work out somehow. I was 100% believe in love, in us, no thought, head empty. Honestly, I'm glad that my 21 years old was inexperienced enough to be like, yay, let's do the long distance without any questions. Because if you ask me, my 27 years old, to do a 3 years long distance, I would have a lot of pullback because I know that it was very tough. So for me, at that time, I was very optimistic. But German boyfriend was 28 and had his heart broken once or twice. So let's see what he say about it.
I was just super happy that we decided to be in the long distance relationship. But at the same time, I felt like it needs to be super tough for both of us to not know when we will see each other again. So I decided, first of all, to change that. And I think on the same day, I started to check if I can have holiday in October. And then I started checking for flights. And then I asked her if she could also have holiday in October and was super happy when she said yes. And I think then I booked the flight on the very same day.
The second question we received is how often we meet each other during those 3 years. We met each other 2 to 3 times per year, which is a lot thanks to the social benefits of Germany because my boyfriend had so many paid days off, so many. On our first trip, the flight ticket from Germany to Hanoi, where I live, was so expensive. So he found a way cheaper ticket to fly to the south of Vietnam. And he asked if I can fly there too because the 2 flight tickets together are still cheaper. At that point, I had never been on a plane. I had never traveled alone by myself or to the south to that city. So my first thought was, this guy has to be a serial killer. So this is the first time we met after become a couple. In the past 4 months, we mostly just text with each other. I only met him 4 times in Hanoi 4 months ago. So I actually didn't know that guy that well and now he wants me to fly alone to a complete different city to be with him. What if he just... and then I'm disappear after the trip? It has to be that. Or he just broke and want to save some money. Luckily, it was the latter, but just in case, I gave my friend his passport picture and tell them to call me every day on the trip to make sure that I'm still alive. Be careful, ladies. Creeps are everywhere. I was just lucky. So I packed my stuff and I fly to the south. And it was like magic. We click instantly and we have the most wonderful 2 weeks together. After the first trip, he would visit me every 3 to 4 months in Vietnam. And when I got a little bit more brave, we even go to Thailand together. And my family never had a clue about it. My mom is very strict, actually. So if she knew that I was traveling all over the place with a strange German man, she would go there and drag me home and lock me in the house or something. That brings us to the next question. Did my family know anything during the 3 years that we were doing long distance? For the first 2 years, none of my family member knew. I was living in a dorm in Hanoi with my friends, and my parents were living in another province, and my sister was living in somewhere else, so they cannot really know what was going on in my life every day, so it's easier to hide from them. The thing is, I just didn't know how they would react to it. My parents are living in a small village in Vietnam, and they are very traditional, and at that point, they still treat me like a child, and everything I could tell them was like what I ate for lunch and dinner. I love them, and things are way better now because they started to treat me like a grown-up, so I can talk about more things with them. But at that time, it was impossible. At that time, my parents had never even seen a foreigner before, so what if they did not approve him and then they want me to break up with him? They would call me every day, crying and putting pressure on us. And it was the very beginning of our relationship. We are still figuring things out. I just don't want to deal with that stress. So I just completely hide it from them. The next question is, how often do we communicate with each other per day when we were doing long distance? 6 hours per day or more. I'm not joking. Every day when I go home from school or from work or from whatever, I would call him and then we call until I fell asleep.
Yeah, I also felt like calling with each other was very important. And I also was amazed that it was never hard to find a topic to talk about. But what we also did is like that we were texting each other about almost everything. Pictures from this, pictures from that. Like when we were in the changing cabin trying to decide for a new shirt, we were texting each other. Or like when something's happening, when we were going to a day trip, when we were doing a tournament or whatsoever. By that, we actually managed to make the other one getting involved in our everyday life. And I feel like this is very important in a long distance relationship.
Lots of people ask me if there's any obstacle when we were doing long distance. Yeah, a lot. The first thing is money. You need to have money to make this work. Flight tickets from Vietnam to Germany, round trip, normally cost around 700 euros to 1,000 euros. And we were doing that like 3 times per year. My boyfriend paid for the flight tickets because he earned way much more than me. But when he arrived, I also shared the cost of the hotel and traveling fees because I also wanted to help. And that means during 3 years of doing long distance, we were just working and saving money. We did not dare to use money for any other purpose.
As Uyen said, like in the beginning, I just started working in a new job and I was not working full time at that moment. So yeah, together with paying for the flights and then at the end also the hotel and the food and sometimes the traveling, I was really constantly broke at that time. I remember that one time I even needed to borrow some money from my aunt because otherwise I wouldn't have had the money to buy the flight ticket.
The second problem is time. My boyfriend had a lot of holiday, but I didn't. When I was working in Vietnam, I had like 14 days off in total in a year, and normally I should not even take like more than 5 days off in a row. So at one point, I ran off annual leave. So he would just fly to Vietnam, rent a hotel near where I work, and while I was working, he was just walking around the city, taking pictures, catching Pokemons, trying to kill time until I get off work. Another obstacle is that if your love language is physical touch, this might be not a thing for you. Although we video phoned every day, it's still different compared to all of my other friends who had their boyfriend right there. Whenever I see couples together, holding hands, going to the cinema, eating something together, I was happy for them, but I was also very sad because I also had a boyfriend and I wanted to do things like that with him, but he is like 1,000 kilometers far away from me. And whenever we were together, although I was super happy, every day I keep thinking about the fact that he's gonna leave soon, and it made me super sad the whole trip. It was just like that for 3 years, and I'm telling you, that feeling was not getting better. It's just getting worse years after years. So yeah, all of that was pretty tough, but I think the thing that made me struggle the most with long distance is that when I looked around, a lot of my friends and a lot of people I know had tried to do long distance, and most of them didn't work out. When I told people that I had a German boyfriend, many people asked me, are you sure that he's being faithful to you in Germany? What if he had like a wife and 2 kids and you had no clue about? Which sound completely crazy. But when you think about it, I mean, I had no clue about his life in Germany rather than what he told me. I did not get much support about our relationship from people I know, and I'm not blaming them. Some of them were just trying to look out for me. But it's hard to like keeping faith by myself all the time. Luckily, German boyfriend is a very loyal guy and he have never did anything that made me question anything. I was just going crazy inside of my head by myself like that.
So someone asked what was the sweetest thing we've ever done for each other during long distance. And I'm talking about Uyen, of course, and how I got this shirt. Because she ordered it from Vietnam to me in Germany. And it was a very nice surprise because I told her that I would really like to have this shirt because I really like the design, but it was on a website where they always just have their shirts for like 48 hours and then they're gone forever. So if I don't buy it, it's gone forever. But I decided to save some money for the next flight ticket and for our next trip, and not buy it by myself. But then she went there and ordered it so that it gets delivered to me to Germany. The problem was that it got delayed. Yeah, so she texted them and she told them like, yeah, hey, it said that it should have arrived today, but it didn't. And they said like, okay, so maybe it will still arrive, but okay, so due to that, we send you another one. And then the other one arrived and somehow we even got a second one at the end. And then, yeah, I had this shirt, the second one got Uyen, and we had our first couple shirt. Or actually, shirt for me and dress for her.
Talking about gifts, we actually gave each other lots of gifts during those 3 years. Because basically, there's not much you can do for each other when you are long distance. Normally, we don't send gifts for each other because it's costly and it's complicated between Vietnam and Germany to send something. One time, he tried to send me a postcard. I haven't received it. It's been 7 years. So that's why he found the shirt things very sweet because that was the only time that he actually received something in Germany from me. But yeah, most of the time we just keep buying gifts for each other and then keep it somewhere so that when we meet each other again on the first day, we would exchange the gifts like Christmas Day every time. He always brought me a lot of German sweets, wines, the cheap one in a carton box because it's safer for delivery. Lots of canned food too, because I was addicted to German potato soup at that time for some reason. Every time he arrived, his trolley and backpack were always so full and heavy, just full of the stuff for me. My gifts were nowhere as good as his though. But one time I made him this, so that he can hang on the wall and it will remind him of me every time he sees it. This is where I live in Vietnam, Hanoi, the capital. And this is where he lived in Germany, Mannheim. I think the gifts help us a lot to cope with long distance because whenever I miss him, I just need to look around or even my clothes and I could see all of the stuff that he brought me and it made me less lonely, I would say. Next question, how did we decide that I would go to Germany with him instead of him going to Vietnam to live with me? For the first year that we were together, we did not even think about that question. He was still started to work in Germany and his life is very unstable and I was a student in Vietnam. So the best solution would be we stay where we were and then we meet each other from time to time. For the second year, my boyfriend finally moved out of his parents' house and had his own apartment. At the same time, I graduate, and it seems like a good time to immediately move to Germany and start a master's degree because now he had his own apartment and we can live together. But I quickly chose not to do it because we just been together for a year, and although I think I know him pretty well, it's still a very big life-changing decision and I think I need more time to figure out about us and about who I am before I commit to this. So I found a job and I started my corporate life in Vietnam for the next 2 years and my boyfriend keep coming and visit me every 3 months. We also talk a lot about should he go to Vietnam to work because with his profession and being a white European man, he could have so much opportunities in Vietnam and he could earn way much more than what I was earning at that time. I mean, it sounds like a good deal for me. I could still stay in Vietnam with my family and friends, and we also don't have financial struggle there as well. But on the other hand, if I go to Germany, he could stay with his family and friends, and I could have a higher education in Europe. Plus, it looked like I would have a brighter career, hopefully. At the end, after long discussion, it seems like if I move to Germany, it would be beneficial for both of us. And that's why we decided that I should be the one who's moving. The next question is that when I decided to leave everything behind Vietnam and move to Germany with my boyfriend, was I sure that everything would turn out well at the end? Not 100%, because I know that when I move over there, it's gonna be a very big responsibility for him. He has to help me take care of tons of paperwork and also take care of me financially, because I didn't have a job at that time. It is a very big pressure. I had concern, but that was the risk I was willing to take, because at that time, as far as I see, German boyfriend has a lot of quality. For starter, he's a very good listener. Whenever I mention something I like or something I fear of, he's gonna remember it and make sure to buy me the thing I like or help me to overcome the fear. I remember before the first trip, I told him that I was very scared of water because I was almost drowned when I was a child. And he showed up in Vietnam with 2 arm floaties. And during the trip, somehow he managed to convince me to get into a pool for the first time in my life. I still cannot swim now, but at least I can be comfortably under the pool with a lot of protection, thanks to him. Also, he embraced my personality and I could just be myself around him, which I think is such an important trait of a partner. During our first trip, I was always wearing makeup, and whenever we go out, it always took me around an hour to prepare myself before we going out. And it's not like doing makeup is a bad thing or something. It's just that I hate myself when I don't have makeup on. I think that my face without makeup is ugly and I'm not confident about that. And German boyfriend was there to see the whole thing. And he kept telling me that I'm beautiful no matter what, with or without makeup. It took like a year for all of his words to get into my head, and I finally accept that even without makeup, I look pretty. Another thing is that when I first met him, I was pretty underweight, because in Vietnam, that was basically the beauty standard. You have to be as slim as possible. And as you can see, after being with him for a while, this is how I look like now. I'm glowing. I gained like 10 kilograms. So yeah, he sounds like a great guy, and from what I can tell at that moment, he would take a great care of me when I go to Germany, or at least he could try his best. So I gave us a chance, packed my stuff, and I went to Germany. It's been more than 3 years since I moved to Germany and lived with my boyfriend, and I could safely tell you that things are going very well. We are very happy together, and I'm very glad that we made the decision to move to Germany to live together. I think the biggest reason that helped us survive long distance was just simply that we were meant for each other. We were fitting so well, and the connection we made was so special. Although it was challenging, we never thought of quitting because we knew that this is worth fighting for. We barely even fight with each other during those 3 years and never ever mentioned breaking up once. That was basically the main secret. I am so sorry if you're searching for more tips and tricks here. Okay, I think this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for listening to us ranting for like 20 minutes. Have a nice day and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.